Hello everyone. Nice to meet you today. Today we have very interesting topic, and our speakers, Mr. Stanislaw and Miss Oksana, will be mainly presented today the presentation, which is very interesting. The topic is founding for development. So you will be see here and to find here the grants and different opportunities for you, for our countries, for organization, for personal business, or for to start, I don't know, some different work. So please let me introduce Mr. Stanislaw and Ms. Oksana. The floor is yours, so you can speak. You have 2 hours with question and with your presentation, please.
Thank you very much for this kind invitation. We divided our presentation into 2 parts, or 3 parts even, but we work with Professor Oksana Zamora very closely in various projects. So we thought it could be interesting for you to learn our mutual dual perspective on funding for your personal growth and funding for your professional and personal development. Maybe Oksana, you can tell a little bit about yourself, and then I will tell about myself, and then we will tell about what we prepare for you for today.
Hello, everyone. As Staszek said, I work in an academic field, so I represent university, but my career started from the European Union project, which was called Strengthening Civil Society. So I was hugely involved in the third sector, working with NGOs, non-governmental organizations. This is where I learned what volunteering is and what grants are. Later, when I moved to the academic field, I had a close cooperation with such programs coming from EBRD, which are supporting SMEs. So I came to the topics of Horizon 2020. If you know, it's a European Union program funding small and medium enterprises in particular. So currently I work mostly in the educational projects, but I try to combine my previous experiences and still develop on them. Mostly those projects which I do, they are so-called development projects. They include into themselves educational, training components. We are buying equipment for universities. We are organizing mobilities and study tours and so on. So the more we try, the more the project benefits the organization, the better, I think. So that is my favorite type of a project. So now I pass the floor to Staszek. He will talk about the structure of our performance and his first part, and then I will continue.
So if you can put another slide, next slide, please.
Mm-hmm.
As Oksana mentioned, I support various projects related with also with working with women in Ukraine, and it's our experience working on together in one of these projects. Myself, I'm responsible for Center of Research and Development of Social Innovation of the Jesuit University in Krakow, and my interest focused about social innovations, international development and development cooperation efforts. So that's my area where I feel comfortable when I talk. But sometimes we do projects out of the scope of those efforts. And today we would like to help you to understand 3 things. First, I will tell about where are the money, where are funding for innovative women in Georgia and Caucasus. Second, area is very interesting, in my humble opinion, because knowing that there are some assistance is interesting, but knowing how to get that assistance is even more interesting. And third, in conjunction with those two, is experiences sharing concerning practical efforts in getting funds, spending funds, evaluating funds, monitoring funds. So something which gives you practical examples what could be interesting from your perspective and become inspirational element of our today discussion and meeting. We would like to make this meeting very interactive, meaning that if you have questions, if you have doubts, if you have concerns, if you have great ideas, don't hesitate. You may raise your hand, you may write on chat or to raise your hand, and then we will try to take into account in addressing your questions and suggestions. Our meeting is divided in two parts. In first part, we talk more, and the second we talk less, and we hear your interests and your needs. So without further ado, if you like the program divided in those three elements, then we can go forward to the next slide. At the end of our today meeting, we hope there will be following results of our meeting. First of all, you should better know your knowledge about available funding for Georgia and elsewhere will be increased. Second, presented opportunities of the support for women and organizations supporting women in Georgia and Caucasus. Yes. And third, demonstrated experiences and ideas of the inspirational projects which are useful, feasible, and applicable in the conditions of the Georgia and Caucasus. Because we have some ideas what is interesting for you, and then you can decide what is more interesting, what is less interesting, what is not interesting at all. But you have a variety of various projects which we will describe later on today. Yes. So let me start with European Union money. European Union is one of the major donors in the world, but also in Caucasus. Supports in the frame of the development cooperation efforts. Development cooperation is a term describing non-refundable assistance of the European Union for the budget of Georgia or through grants supporting Georgians institutions, Georgians organizations, Georgians schools, universities, think tanks, and enterprises. Mainly, they are distributed through call for proposals. Later on, Oksana will tell you more about technicalities, technical aspect of this. When we organize call for proposals and technical aspect of it. So I will skip it intentionally away from my presentation. So one area is funding for organization in Georgia through call for proposals, and annually there are one or two calls organized by delegation of the European Union in Georgia. But also Georgian institutions have access to internal EU programs accessible by the Georgian organization. And example of such a program is Erasmus Plus program, and I will tell you later on about this program, but also Horizon Europe, and I will tell you later on about example of such programs. Let me tell you a little bit about my personal experience, how I started with getting funds from European Union. Poland in that time was not a member of the European Union. We have been in the situation as Ukraine and Georgia are now. So we wanted to become a member of the European Union, and my first project in my life was related to beekeeping. You know, bees are very useful animals, and they get produce honey, produce many products which are good for health, for beauty, and general they are very that's very useful commodity. So my first project was related with helping Polish and Spanish beekeepers to get funding to cooperate together and exchange of experiences. And this experience was very, very educative. What can be done in order to get money, but also what went wrong when you get the money and you don't forget, and you forget about something. And through 2 years, we discussed and we worked and we met and we get the funding from the EU, also including reporting aspects, also including meeting with beekeepers and helping them to work with assistance manual. For all of us, it was very educative, and yes, and that was my kindergarten of getting funding. On a small scale funding project, I learned many things, useful things concerning in general of getting grants and getting projects. So another element I would like to raise now is presentation of the Horizon Europe program. Horizon Europe program is a large-scale research and development cooperation program. In the frame of it, there is an opportunity to get funding also for SMEs, also opportunity to get funding for universities, educational institutions, and others. And I do recommend that you take a closer look at the possibilities related with getting of those funds, because that's one of the biggest in the world source of funding for research and applied research. If I can ask for another slide. Georgia is emerging economy. It's entitled to get funding through bilateral assistance and international assistance. One of the big source of funding is United States Agency for International Development, USAID. And it's delegated through office of the agency in Tbilisi. But also there are world calls for proposals. And one of those calls are related to development innovation ventures. It is possible to get up to $200,000 for innovative idea of scalable, replicable projects which solve important developmental problems. And it's ongoing process. You may apply all day or all year round, and there are, as I mentioned, up to $200,000 US, $1.5 million, and $5 or $6 million US. I would suggest to focus on the first element, which is grants up to $200,000 US. Also, let me turn your attention to Polish aid, Polish assistance, Polska Pomoc. On Friday, last Friday, the plan of Polish Assistance Development Fund was accepted. Georgia is supported through grants given to Polish organizations who would like to work in Georgia. Our project is sponsored by the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the frame of this Polish aid. You may be interested that Georgia, one of the priority for Georgia is support for new tourist development cooperation products, respecting environment, respecting social causes, and respecting, among others, possibility of jointly develop this area of Georgian economy. The call for proposals will be open later on next month, and I will tell you later on about those efforts. Other donors like GIZ, Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, UK, DFID, and others, and also UNDP, which is very interesting source of funding for especially women projects, women-oriented projects. We got funding last time related with support for women in Ukraine, for example. If you can put another slide, I would be very grateful. Let me tell you example of the call for proposals. In the frame of so-called Polish Challenge Fund, it is possible to apply up to $40,000, which is nice, by the way. The deadline is 20 December 2021. It's requested in kind or in cash contribution 20% of the project of the value of those efforts. Date of implementation are spring 2022. The aim of the call is transfer of Polish know-how, technology, and various solutions in response for the developmental challenges of the partner countries according to sustainable development expressed in the Agenda 2030. Agenda 2030 is agenda setting up by the United Nations to support sustainable development of all countries in the world. So your ideas, your dreams, your concept may be transferred into very interesting project where Polish know-how, Polish ideas and technology may support development of Georgian economy. So as you can see from this small presentation, which it's the fourth call for proposal. Yes, fourth call for proposals. In the previous edition, we have been successfully applied for funding in the frame of this program. And later on, I will tell you which project has been already supported. Do you have questions related to this call? If not, we can move toward example of the projects funded through this call. For example, in Ukraine, we got support to work with supporting Women Innovation Network in Ukraine. And it was a big success, also thanks to Oksana, Zamora support and contribution. So I'm very happy we started meaningfully cooperate in the frame of this project. So I'm happy that now these experiences may be shared in Georgia. Yes. So going forward, we also got funding in another project, which supported the development of the software supporting the automatic disinfection in hospitals. That was also a very nice project, and we got a special application to work with disinfection in hospitals against COVID-19. Going forward, we also got another project, which was a creation of the software which helped to bring together social initiatives supporting hospitals in Ukraine. We work with 4 hospitals, and we have been successful in supporting them with various elements of civic support for development of the action against COVID-19. So there are examples of a project which has been funded through PCF, Polish Challenge Fund. I do hope that I will be able to develop with you idea of the very interesting project focused on Georgia. There are 3 countries where Polish Challenge Fund is working. It is Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova. In the past, that was Belarus and Ukraine, and now it's, as I mentioned, Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia. What could be interesting also from your perspective is that all kind of very sophisticated even ideas can be funded, and through approximately projects duration of 6 months can be implemented as a pilot for larger scale efforts. Yes, if you can put another slide. Polska pomoc, Polish aid. Poland is supporting Georgia for many reasons. Pragmatic, but also sentimental, but also historical, but also related with the fact that Georgia is a close ally of Poland in various international efforts. So there are various reasons why Poland has chosen working with Georgia in international development cooperation efforts. So Georgia is Polish priority country to work with in Caucasus. Another Polish priority country is Ukraine. And unfortunately, for completely different reasons, Polish assistance is focusing also on Belarus with some, because of obvious reasons, there is a challenge with the human rights and other issues which are important, and they are our neighbors. So, as I mentioned, last Friday, a plan of Polish development cooperation efforts was accepted by the after consultation. In Poland, Polish Minister of Foreign Affairs has a good practice of consulting plans of development cooperation with the stakeholders, other ministries, but also NGOs and civic organizations. So there is idea in the ministry, and they ask people, they ask specialists, they ask organizations, what do you think? Last Friday, this consultation was presented after reviewing opinions of various institutions. Final version of the plan was presented. Georgia is, as I mentioned, Polish priority country, which means that among others, tourism in Georgia is in focus on our attention in this year. So if you have great idea how to develop tourism in Georgia, we will be happy to discuss how we can implement such a project. In 2021, we expect call for proposal with the deadline later in December. It will be open the most probably in the end of November 2021, with the deadline with the second half of December. If successful, then we submit a proposal and we wait 2 to 3 months. If successful, we will be given go ahead probably in March, April. And we can start work in April until the end of the year, or even the next year. So our dream is to use experiences of our this year project to develop new projects, of course, because we are very honored, we are very privileged to have great Georgian partner, and we believe strongly that this cooperation could be fruitful for further development of new initiatives. So we are very open for your input and ideas, how we can support tourism development, but also other ideas. I'm focusing on tourism because I'm, focusing on the things which are the easiest to develop and implement. And we are happy to discuss it with you later on during our consultation part and our trip to Georgia early in December. So the minimum amount of money is 200,000 Polish zloty. Realistically, we cannot get more than 400,000 Polish zloty. So it gives you some ideas about scale of the project. So 400,000 is approximately 100,000 euro, just to make this idea more clear in terms of about scale of the project. If I may ask for the next slide. I would like to tell you about very nice initiative, which is completely different than what I learned in the past. The money are not development cooperation efforts. The money are European money to support your great idea implementation in Poland. So we can envision that you have great idea of development of the new business, and you dream that this could be interesting for Poland. And you would like to implement this great idea in Poland, not in Georgia. And Polish prize gives possibility of development of the innovative projects and setting up business in Poland and get money, which is very nice after all. Seed money is up to 50,000 Polish zloty, which is approximately 12,000 euro. So you say, I have a great idea, give me the money. They give you the seed money to come, and those money supports soft lending in Poland. So the lawyer will help you, accountant will help you. So there will be several assistance efforts to help you with the development of your business, setting up your business in Poland. And the second phase is more interesting because you can get up to 250,000 Polish zloty, even 300,000 Polish zloty to develop your business in Poland. The aim is flourishing of your own business in Poland, and requested because it's not gift, it's an investment in implementation of your innovative idea. Yes. So going further, it's necessary to develop idea which could be, we call it MVP, minimum viable product, something which already function, is not ready for market, is not product ready for market, but it's something which could be shown to investors, to business partners, to other stakeholders as an interesting and useful product or service. What is taken into account in decision, because it's a highly competitive process? Yes, because what is important also, you have to bear in mind that Polish people are not allowed to get money from that program. The idea is to get great talent from the rest of the world and encourage them to think about Poland as their destination. So as I mentioned, Polish entrepreneur, Polish innovators are not allowed to take money from this program. And going further with this, two aspects are taken into consideration in presentation of the idea, in assessment of the idea. One is scalability. So you have great idea of the project, which is scalable. And second element, which I would like to turn your attention, is replicability. So let's assume you have great idea of making khachapuri, yeah, new innovative way through franchise. And this khachapuri will conquer Polish market because Polish people love Georgian kitchen. There are many Georgian restaurants in Poland, and all they are filled with people. So you have great idea, but you have to convince that your way of doing khachapuri is the best and is like McDonald's of the future. Of course, I'm exaggerating. It's much easier to show it through IT services. It's much easier to show it through smart solutions for cities, etc. But those two elements, scalability and replicability, are very important in assessment of your business idea. Yes? So I try to show you example of quite another call for proposals where it's not devoted to help Georgia, but may help Georgians to set up their business in Poland. So going further, if I may ask Oksana to go with the next slide. A few words I would like to tell you about Erasmus+. And let me tell you a personal experience. We wanted to work with Ukraine and we applied for small projects of the mobility. We invited very good people from Spain. We invited very good people from Ukraine and we organized a meeting in Poland. And it was great success. Then we organized a visit of Ukrainians in Poland and we organized our visit of Polish and Ukrainian friends in Spain. And it was also a great success. So based on these experiences, we are quite sure that we are able to develop a project focused on support for Eastern Partnership countries. The new call will be opened in the first quarter 2022 with the deadline around second quarter. We believe it will be May, early May next year, but it's not still undecided yet. Realistically, we may count of the participation in the projects ranging from minimum 10,000, 15,000 euro up to 400,000 euro. But we have to bear in mind that it's not one single applicant. It's 3, 4, 5 single present share of the partners between partnership, and of course then the budget is smaller. What is very important that the projects are implemented through lump sum and real cost. Exceptional costs are real cost, but using the word lump sum, we simplify administration of the project, which help us to go forward with development and implementation of very useful, very interesting projects focused on education and focused on youth. Realistically, if we develop a project early next year, we got the decision later on next year with the implementation from fall, autumn next year, just to give you an idea about when the project will be executed. If I may ask for next slide, please. And now we come to the end of my part of presentation and asking Oksana for taking the floor and continue.
Okay, so I'm coming with the next part, which will talk about technicalities, how to get the grant. And the first thing which I wanted just to point out for you that the grants are given on a wide scale, and as a personality, you can get a grant via different ways. Let's say you can get it as an individual, so it can be a grant for your individual development as a personality, as a professional, depending from which field you come, from an academia, from research, from arts, from NGO, or so on. So you can be positioning yourself as a leader, as a social activist, as an artist, and so on. Then you can be a part of an NGO, so you can get a grant for, as a part of an NGO. So the grant will come to the organization, but you will still be benefiting from it, because maybe you will be either a leader of the project or one of the executors of the project. Also, grants can be given to educational institutions. Those could be universities, those could be schools, or any other institutions which promote education, even NGOs which do adult education. So this is another way how to get the grants. Also, if you want to be positioning yourself as a businesswoman, as a startupper or as a part of an SME or a leader of an SME or business innovator, those there is also a wide range of grants for you. Also, not always you should be an applicant. Sometimes you can be a part of the partnership or consortium, and then the grant will come to another leader organization, and you will be benefiting as either an organization participating in the partnership or consortium, or just an expert who participates in the project just because you were involved because of your knowledge. Along with that, as we are talking about just basics, I wanted to stress out that it's very nice for the donor when you use correct terms and you speak correctly using the project management specific terminology. In this regard, it's not good to say to write a grant, because grant means money. So you cannot write money, you can write a project proposal. So why do we say just grant? Grant is an English term which explains us by its own meaning that it's granted, it's presented. It means that they give it to you and you don't need to give it back. Why do they give it to you? Because the donor or the funder has its own mission. They want, for example, to save the world from hunger. And they do it through educational projects in the field of non-governmental organizations. So you, being a non-governmental organization, can ask for their money to help the donor to perceive their mission. So that's why usually when we read about the calls for grants, the calls for project applications to get a grant, we will see the so-called call priorities explaining us that this call is namely for the topic of environment, for example. Another call is namely for the topic of business innovations in the field of IT and so on. And knowing that we are the organization with a relevant background, we can apply for this particular grant from this particular donor. Not all donors, not all the calls fit us. We are supposed to meet certain criteria. We will talk about it a little bit later. So if we get the grant, we become a so-called recipient or a grantee. And it doesn't matter from which field we come, the status grantee means that you were awarded a grant, that you have signed a grant agreement with the donor. So now you are supposed to fulfill certain requirements which are mentioned in this grant agreement. And usually the grant agreement is just the part, textual part, which describes what is supposed to be done. And the attachment to this grant agreement is what you have written in your project application, meaning that idea about which Staszek was telling you before, for which you're asking the money. So you should be really careful about thinking and what you're writing in your project application, because later you will be supposed to implement it really, really precisely. So there are a lot of tips and like guidance how to design a nice proposal which will be granted with a grant money. But I will give you those which are very deep in their background, but will at least guide you towards a right path. So the first one, you can imagine that the competition for the grants is really big usually. So your idea should be really unique. And on the other hand, it should be still within the donor's priorities. So why Staszek was talking about tourism? Because he knows that it's one of the priorities of the donor. He knows that this topic is not developed much within this particular call. And he knows probably that somehow for your region, it's easier to develop a tourism-related topic and apply for the grant. The next criteria for the proposal, which is eligible for granting, is being innovative in your idea. So you can imagine that, for example, one donor funds the projects, like educational projects for teenagers. And everyone who applies for this, they offer it in the form of summer schools. Everyone does summer schools, different topics, but the approach is the same. And actually the outcome is usually the same. We have 20 participants who have studied certain topic and they left. If you change this approach, if you make it more innovative, creative somehow, if you turn these 20 graduates of your summer school who were studying something about environment and the multipliers, if they don't just graduate from your summer school, they go further, they set up their own hobby classes, or they go back to their schools, universities, and they set up some action. It means that the donor will see that your project is different, it's unique, it's more innovative, it brings more added value. That's why they are probably going to give you money. Number 3, practical value. The first thing is that there was a trend many years ago when the grant sphere just was developed and when they were giving grants just to support the NGOs, to encourage people to apply for other grants. But now the value for money is very important. So they can give 20,000 euro to this organization and to that organization, and still they compare to whom better to give, meaning that those money would be given to that organization, which will provide more practical value, which will solve the problem more systematically, comprehensively, deeper, extensively, and so on. And that's why the main criteria is that you know your target audience very clearly, you understand their problems, and you know that your solution will be the best and your solution will fit their needs, namely here and now. Sometimes some ideas for projects, they are not relevant for now. Maybe they're nice, maybe they are interesting for you, but when you come to the target audience, they say, we are not interested in it yet. I often give an example of the project which I met in Macedonia during one of my study visits, where we were visiting an NGO which has been working with Roma local population for 15 years. They established the school with their first project, funded by the European Union, but they never got enough students, because the Roma population which was living in that area, they were not interested in giving education to their kids. When they started to come to the houses of this Roma people, they started to ask, why don't you want to give them education? This is their first way, their first step towards some success in the future. They got the response that they give birth to children not to get education, they give birth to children to work for them, to help them about the house. And to earn money. So the project with the school just failed because of that. On the other hand, if you talk about projects which relate to business, then of course the main criteria will be if your product or your idea can be commercialized and can bring profit in the future. The next thing is about the the size and the deepness and the positiveness of the change which you're going to cause, but what you are doing by what you are doing in the project. Sometimes we think about the projects as something about formal. something formal, like we just teach people or we just build a school, but we don't think deeper. We don't think deeper about possible positive changes. Like maybe it's not enough just to build the school. Maybe we need to do something else. Maybe it's pandemic around there, so we need to provide people with internet, and it's not about like building a construction of school. It's more about providing a set of online courses for people and make them accessible for people, simply because of like current situation or specifics of the target group with whom you're working. Next thing is each donor gets, as you understand, hundreds of applications. These applications sometimes are written and designed by newcomers, by those who do it for the first time. Sometimes these applications are designed by those who are real professionals. And that's why they are very good quality, but sometimes they are done by people who do it just for money, who are not honest, who are doing it just, you know, like just for money, and they don't care about the quality. So the donor gets all these different 3 types, for example, of applications, and some of them will be well designed but not well written. Some will be well designed and well written, but submitted, I don't know, with missing some annexes, for example, or missing some important data. So that's why the recommendation is to read the guidelines of the donor very closely. Then when you're going to fill in the application, read carefully what the donor wants you to write in each section. How many characters, in which form, do they need statistic data as a proof or not? And don't miss the deadlines. If the deadline is set up like 12 p.m. Brussels time, then do it according to the 12 p.m. Brussels time. So what is a project? We are using this term a lot. So just to make your, to build some image in your head what project is. Of course, we understand the project as a set of activities. This set of activities can be designed according to the limitations provided by the donor. So the limitation can be, for example, the project can last for a year only. The budget for the project could be 400,000 euro, and the project can be implemented, namely in the north part of Georgia. So it means that you need to take into consideration these limitations and develop your idea in the best way possible. The next thing is that you have your own limitations. Not always it's only about the donor's limitations. For example, you don't have that much time, like 1 year, or you don't have infrastructure. For example, you want to teach students who are living in remote rural areas in mountains, but they don't have computers, or they don't have internet access. So in your project, you need also to think about buying, for example, some facilities to provide internet access in the mountains. You don't have enough staff. Of course, if you are applying as a potential grantee who wants to execute some project, you're supposed to have some relevant staff, but not always this staff can know everything. So then it's possible to subcontract some activities to someone from outside, some external experts, and it's okay. But you need to think about that and justify that in the project application. And the last recommendation about the project is that it's not okay when the donor wants you to implement an environmental related project, for example, and your organization, who has always been involved in counteraction of human trafficking, you decided suddenly to apply for the environmental related project. For the donor, it will mean that you don't have enough expertise, you don't have enough facilities, you don't have enough networking abilities to involve enough target audience. So the project will simply fail because of this, formal requirements. Usually, those people who meet the idea of grants and donors for the first time, they ask, why do they give us money? Of course, the simple answer is that the donor has their mission. So the donor wants you to help them to implement this mission and to improve the situation which relates to the target audience. So if you look at these reasons, we can split them into two groups. The first one is promotion for the donor, that the donor usually represents, for example, the taxpayers. Like if you talk about the funds of the European Union, the European Union represents the European citizens who are the taxpayers, who have contributed to the funds which we are going to use as a grant. Or it can be, if it's a bilateral project, then it's funded by the governments of two countries. So we are talking about the image and the promotion of the positive image of two countries. But on the other hand, the reasons could be related strongly to the problem. We have the problem in the country or in the region, which should be solved. And that solution is reached in two ways. The first one in some kind of short-term results, like for example, we have trained 20 women to set up the startups. And then that was the result which we are getting in the end of, right in the end of the project. But then some time will pass. These women will start really to set up the project. Some of them will set up the startup and it will become successful. She will start to employ, she will maybe start her own, startup academy. And it means that she will multiply her knowledge. She will make a bigger impact. So in that regard, we are talking about so-called project impact. But anyhow, either the project results or the positive image of the donor, they need to be disseminated at maximum. That's why another feature of each project is very strong dissemination and sustainability of the results. So you cannot just think about the project which will educate 20 women. You need to think about sustaining this result, about either supporting them further after the project end or doing something with the project materials which will be in use for other projects or something like that. So what you see on the left is a classical structure of sections of the project proposal. You should start from the goal, like why you want to get this money, what you're going to do with them, then what exactly you're going to do, like the set of activities, what resources you need to do that, like I need to do the conference, I need to build a plant, I need to fly to the moon, and I need to publish a book. So what do I need for that? I need not only money, I also need people, I need experts, I need time and so on. And in the end, the description of the implementation, how will I do that? For example, to build a school, I need to subcontract it to some company. To make a training or a conference, I have my own experts, so I will do that in this city for so much time. How will I sustain the results? I will set up a website, and this website will exist after the project end and so on. So this is this.
Excuse me, Oksana, can I ask you a question?
Vera?
Yeah, about the implementation. What if I'm very new to this game and I'm starting right now and doesn't have previous experience to the project implementation? Will it be a problem even if I have a very good idea and very good goals for this project?
You mean if the donor will select you or not, right?
Yeah.
There are different approaches among the donors. Some donors tend to fund, namely those who are experienced. Some donors tend to fund, namely those who are unexperienced. So you can even find such calls where it's like written, namely for those organizations who want to apply for the first time. But usually this is this issue or problem can be solved by partnering with those who have some experiences. And for organizations who work long-term, they need to see this question strategically. You know that you want to get grants on your own someday, so start partnering as early as possible. Try to be included in projects, just to be an informational partner, just to be an associate partner. So in the end, when they ask you about your experiences, you will say that, okay, I was not a coordinator, I didn't get money to my account, but still I helped to implement this project, so I have some experiences. So it's more of a strategic question, I would say.
Thank you. It was very helpful, actually.
You're welcome. So if you go to any donor, you will see that each of them have their own application form, which you will need to fill in, but mostly they have the same content. This content sections can be named differently, but still they are asking you about the same questions under different light. Also, we should define a concept note and the project application itself. A concept note means that the donor asks you about your project in a short version. You just need to shortly, logically describe what you're going to do, how, what methodology, what results you want to obtain, how you will sustain them. Usually some calls offer you to submit only a concept first. Then the donor will see, okay, we like this concept and that concept, so we will ask this organization, so people, to submit a bigger proposal. And some calls, they ask you both for a concept note and for a project application altogether. Why? Because they use this concept note, or it can be called even a summary, so it will be even shorter. They use it just for the promotion. If you get the grant, they will tell about your project at their website using this text. Sometimes it can be used for pre-selection also, technical pre-selection. So concept note is just short idea of the project. A project application, it's a full description of the project. If you talk about European Union, they like to break this project application into two parts. The first one is administrative, where you just put some different general information about organization, your legal address, your bank account, your who is the leader of your organization, and so on. And then the technical part, which precisely describes what you're going to do, when, how, and so on. So just briefly, what is expected from you to, when you're just even thinking about the idea, always remember that at some point, this idea is going to be turned into project application. So you will need to go into details. So it's not enough to think about the aim of the project and general activities. You also need to think literally how you're going to implement them. That will help you to think about resources, the budget, and so on. So the overview of the state of art is really important to prove not only to the donor, but even to yourself that the problem is really the one which you need to solve here and right now. Only if this part is written so that the donor really believes you, that if you don't give money, if he or she doesn't give you money right now or right here, then your target audience will, I don't know, die, will become all drunkards, drug dealers, and so on. Doesn't matter. The idea is just to press on the problem to show whether it's burning. You need the funds right now to solve the problem. How you can do it? You can do it only if you show some real digits, some real life situations, and for that you need to talk to your target audience and you need to find out like real cases from their life. Then you formulate the project aim, like what you want to achieve. You break it into smaller pieces, you show how, like steps, and then you describe it in terms of timeline. So first we are doing that, then we are doing that, and so on. The part methods describes how exactly you're going to do that. You're saying that you're going to train 20 women to be able to set up a startup. How you're going to do that? How the donor knows that it's not just, words in the air, but you definitely know how to train them to set up a startup. Project benefits. It's important to show the benefits not only for the target audience, but also for the stakeholders, for all the people who can be related to the project. And it shows the donors that your project is really has a wider impact. The last part, which is really usually important, is something which talks about sustainability. Okay, you have built the school within the project, but the funding will finish and the project will finish. Who will fund the school? Who will pay the money for, who will pay the salary for the staff? You are printing the book. Okay, you have printed 20 pieces of book. What will be in the end of the project? What will happen with this, this book, with this 20 issues of the book or electronic version of the book and so on. If it's a research project, maybe some of you are from academia, then sometimes they ask you about the research team. If it's not a research project, but a regular project, then some donors ask, okay, you say that you're going to teach the women about startups. You say that you have experts. Show us the resumes, the CVs of these people who you're going to invite. We want to see that they are real experts and like they can do that. Last but not least, important part of the project application will be the budget. The budgets can be asked in terms of lump sums. So you will just write, okay, I'm going to spend 2,000 euro for stationery. I will spend 5,000 euro for the conference and so on. And some of the projects will ask you to write a really detailed budget. For that, you need to know exactly how much money does the pen cost, how much money will you pay for the rent for the premises, even if your project is going to happen in 2 years or in 1 year. You need to know that. You need to think about inflation and other things. So project budget is something that needs a lot of your attention. So how to get a partner? This is another like burning question from some of the participants, because most of the projects, especially if they are international, they require partnership. Most important is that you need to build an image of yourself as an expert, of your organization. Also, each cooperation with any organization or people should be sustained and supported. That's why at some point your partners may invite you to the project, or they may invite you to the event where you will meet someone who will invite you to the project. Any kind of successes in the topic of your expertise should be published at your website. It should be promoted, and your organization should build its name in the field of, for example, environment, or in the field of kids education or adult education. And of course, try to participate in as many events as possible. But these are not like the final tips. Of course, there are some platforms which were created by the donors, by the European Commission itself, by the European Union funded projects, where you can find the partners which are aiming at particular funding instrument. For example, you can go to the CORDIS. It's the platform which allows you to find the partner, namely for European Commission related funds. You can go to the Google and search for idealist. Those would be the project related to the sphere of IT, for example. So it's a big topic. If you are interested, you need to find out about it more, but there are hundreds of platforms. So you just need to spend time and use them. And the last few slides, I just wanted to consult if I have time for that. I will talk more, or I will just make it fast. Do I have 5 minutes more? I'm not sure if I didn't.
Yes, yes, of course. We have 1 hour, so you can finish your presentation after we have the question.
Okay, so this is the next 2 slides are going to be dedicated to the projects which I do within the bilateral cooperation with Czech Republic. I've been doing that since 2015. That is one of my most reliable partners, my personal, because I changed the universities and I managed to bring this partner and this idea of the projects to this next university. Now it's not just a bilateral project. We have managed to include more universities from Ukraine. So now we have up to 5 or 6 universities. The Czech Development Agency wants to fund anything related to quality of education in terms of experience sharing from Czech Republic. That's why the idea of each of this project is bringing Czech experiences to Ukraine. As you see, this project is dedicated to building on international inter-university cooperation, and this cooperation is built in different fields. For example, there is a segment dedicated to building the quality of education in Ukraine by cooperation between people who work in this field. The next field is research. The next field is a development internship for students and so on. So you see that the budget is around 175,000 euro. We also bought some equipment for the universities, but mostly the funds here are going to the experts who are helping to implement the project. And as you see, it's the project for the next, starting from 2019 and until 2022. But you see that the number of universities is not like Sumy National Ground University only from where I started. It's already up to how many, 6 or 7 universities. This project is an example of how you develop on the results of your previous project. So as I told you, we started from 2015. After that, we already had 3 or 4 projects. And now when we were applying to this agri-sciences platform project, we were using the results of previous projects. We were saying that we have developed research, we have developed quality of education, we have developed cooperation with students. Now we want to go deeper into the topic of agri-sciences. So we want to create a platform where we will help the researchers, the students, the administration to cooperate on development of agri-sciences, namely for this consortium, which was participating in all these previous projects. So you see that the project consortium is the same, but we are going deeper into a more narrow topic of agri-sciences. Also, I made 2 slides to demonstrate that despite challenges of COVID, when we had total lockdowns, when the overall idea of the project was always that Czech partners come here and they teach us, they help us to do something, they couldn't come. So we still managed to do it online, totally online. For example, if we had the challenge of mobilities, there were mini grants for mobilities for our staff to go to Prague. In the first year, we have postponed it. So we waited until the vaccination happened, and the donor allowed us to shift the money to the next year. So now when people started to have certificates, we just shifted it to this year, and the mobilities happened physically. But as for face-to-face meeting, as for mini grants for research, everything was done online. The call for grants, the grants were awarded face-to-face, of course, but then all the research was done online and so on. So as you see, that solution was found, but of course it was partly found. But the main idea is that even if there are real challenges in doing projects while you're under lockdowns, you still can turn these challenges into benefits. For example, of course, for me, for the coordinator of the project, I had a lot of problem because I had to write hundreds of emails, like, you know, like I feel like I wrote a book. But on the other hand, we had challenges with the experts. Some of the experts happened to travel around the world, and one of our experts was stuck in Australia with a 7 hours difference. So when she was presenting some lectures for us, she was still sleepy. She was, you know, doing that at her night. Some of the webinars were not so interesting for participants because they wanted to come and do that face-to-face, but we changed them into virtual mobilities. And that's why it allowed us to take more participants. That's why it was a benefit for the donor for sure, because we promised to have 20 graduates. We had 100 graduates, so it's much better. And we understood that if people were coming face to face, then we could afford only 20 participants, because we had to pay for their handout materials, for the rent of the premises, for food. But if it's done online, you have spare money. So we had done the video recordings. We have put them on the Moodle platform. So now these recordings are online, they're available for everyone, and more people can benefit from it. Also, as people didn't, the experts didn't travel, we had spare money, so we could buy more equipment. It's more another positive thing. And one last thing, it's about digitalization. Like, people don't like to use some digital instruments, but COVID pushed us to do that. So more people started to use Google Drives, Google Calendar. We started to use shared Google documents, which allowed us to work remotely on the documents simultaneously. And actually, we noticed that it became easier to communicate with our target audience because everyone is online. So you can promote your events, invite to your events cheaper, faster, and so on. Also, we noticed that people started to spend more time on social networks. So it became easier to use these networks for dissemination of project information. And actually, for the university, it's important to have some KPIs which are set up by the ministry. So as we kept the mobilities, it allowed us still to to meet these KPIs by doing not physical mobilities, but doing them virtually. Still, we managed to do them virtually. Also, people were too lazy before or too busy, I don't know. Now they probably had more time, so we got more applications for our events. And as you understand, for the donor, it's better because the donor sees interest of your target audience in what you are doing. It's more important. And as we had spare money, we also could pay for more grants for research. As before, we could pay only to a limited number, and those were going to only one engineering department. So now we could give money even to a medical department. So you see that it's not so bad when COVID comes. You can still do projects and do them successfully, just to be persistent and creative. That's all for me for now. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask.
Thank you very much, Oksana. Thank you very much, Stanislaw. And it was really, really nice presentation. And I think it was really informative.
So, and helpful.
Yes. And so, girls, maybe you have the questions, please. Tamar, please.
Yeah, thank you. I wrote my question, and it's actually connected with Erasmus Plus project. And I wanted to find out if I am eligible if I'm living in Poland, providing I'm Georgian citizen. Can I still apply, or there is a requirement that I should be located, or I shall live in Georgia to apply for that? Do you have any information about it?
Oksana, would you answer, or I should answer?
I can answer in regard of, it depends if you're applying as an individual or organization. If organization, then...
No, I'm applying as an individual. I want to apply for a postdoctorate or research grant, if it's possible.
I think it's more about citizenship, right, Staszek?
Yes, let me tell you, because individual grants is not my domain. I support development of projects for legal entities, for institutions, for organization. When you apply as an individual for mobility, both as on Horizon, in MSCA, Maria Curie action. Then there is a challenge if you would like to reallocate to Poland because you are already in Poland. So there is a serious constraints in applying for funds. So if you are located in Georgia, you may apply to come to Poland. But when you are in Poland, then you may apply to go to, I don't know, Norway, or go back to Georgia or whatever. But I may refer to Maria Curie Skłodowska grant in the frame of Horizon Europe.
Okay.
Yes, but if you like to, let me tell you an example how we solve the problem, the challenge concerning sending person from Ukraine to Spain on behalf of Polish organization. We wanted to invite Ukrainian expert to go with us to Spain. So we signed a separate documentation which proved that that person is cooperating with us, with Polish organization. And then we have been able to allocate her from Poland to Spain.
Okay.
And we paid all the costs, of course.
I would recommend simply to ask it to the National Erasmus office, either in Poland or in Georgia, and they would answer your question easily, I guess.
Thank you.
It's very specific. It depends on the call very much. I saw that the calls, for example, for American, namely for American grants, they write that it's not only about citizenship, but also you need to live for the past 3 years in the country of residence, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't see this requirement in Erasmus. So it's better.
This is why I'm asking, because in case of Visegrad, for example, there is this requirement that I should live for 1 year in Georgia, but I couldn't find it with Erasmus. That's why I was asking. Maybe you have more information, but I will ask to the local office.
You were asking some very specific questions, but it was the local office, yes.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, so you can.
One second. Nana, sorry, Nana. My name is Nana, and I have a question about the tourism sector. So Stanislaw, you mentioned in presentation about this interest to the Georgian tourism sector. And as I understand, also the grant has a limit. We have a limited time till the end of December. So what I need to do, I don't want to take a lot of time now, but it's about a festival which has a unique theme and a unique place, because it's a festival about the family rest, family holidays, how to spend together time in province of Georgia, in Poti, in Black Sea. So, and it's some kind of multifunctional festival. It's not gastronomic or it's not sport. It's a mix of everything. So we have approximately 20 to 25 activities, and even including special lectorium. And the person or family can have chance to come at morning and spend with us during the whole day till the evening, and each person choose what they want. So my question is about the this topic. Is it interesting or not? Of course, it's tourism, because Poti is not a very well-known tourism city today, unfortunately, but it's a bigger city, one of the bigger cities on the Black Sea. You know, it's a port, and it's a city with the very interesting historical underground. So maybe I could ask you to have a meeting, and I will prepare a presentation about this festival with more details and more specific things, innovative things, which we like this word today, when you will come to Georgia, and in Batumi or Tbilisi, I don't know. So maybe we spend some time together to discuss this format.
Sure, it would be very interesting to get to know details of two things. First of all, the idea what you are planning to do. So presentation, what you have already done as a base for future development. And secondly, what kind of support you may expect from us. So what could be interesting, what would be useful, what will be, from very basic to dreams. And then we can talk when we will be in Georgia. Diana will be happy to advise how to proceed, either on Batumi, Kutaisi, or Tbilisi. We are spending 1 day in Kutaisi, 1 day, 2 days, or in Batumi, and rest in Tbilisi. And I will be happy to meet and consult the idea.
Nice. Thank you, Stanislaw. So hope we will meet and discuss. Thank you.
I know, Nana, you will be join us during the conference too. So we will have also opportunity to talk during the conference, and also if it will be good for you, you can also presenting your presentation and about yourself also.
Okay, I will be ready. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
So, Nana, you have questions?
Yeah, it's my turn. So first of all, thank you for quite a lot of interesting information, because I'm interested in how NGOs are functioning, and I have been also participating in a lot of studying visits and different projects, which was implemented by Erasmus+. So I have the question for now. Because for me, to having the NGO is quite a long-term perspective of the time, because first of all, I need to graduate my university degree, because I'm still a student, junior year student. So I have the question if I will have the opportunity to have internship after, of course, graduating my university degree in Poland, in one of your NGOs, or in Ukraine that you're cooperating with. And you also have mentioned that you're working and you're cooperating with the NGOs in Czech Republic. And I'm interested in if I will have the possibility to work and doing some internship, which is also implemented by Erasmus+. Thank you.
That question partly referred to Staszek, partly to me, right? Staszek, so as individual internships is my topic, I will start answering. First thing is, you are aiming at Erasmus, so definitely there is something in Erasmus, but it's something that is supposed to be Googled. What I can recommend you is to Google first thing. You're currently enrolled in university, right? So university is supposed to be applying for grants within Erasmus, within, for example, K1 action, which is called academic mobility. So first thing what you can do is to go to your international relations office and ask what academic mobilities are open for you as a graduate, because mostly these things are open for those who are undergraduates. However, maybe they have some projects. Second thing is maybe they have some projects which are funded within different directions, like K2, for example, capacity building within Erasmus. Doesn't matter for you the name. The idea is that those could be big consortium projects where university participates, and they have, for example, master studies, like 1 semester somewhere, funded by the Erasmus, and this consortium exchanges with students between each other. So this is what you can do. As an NGO, any kind of mobility, it can be, it should be a project which was applied by someone and the grant was got by someone. So it means that you need to connect with the organization which did that. So in first case, we were talking about Erasmus and your university. In case of NGOs, you are supposed to be connected to some NGO, which was related to some project, right? So if you are related to some NGO, ask them if they were participating in any kind of Erasmus projects. And you said that you were participating in youth exchanges, study visits. Those were also grants which were got by those NGOs. So this is only how it works. In terms of Ukraine, I would tell you the same, that I would need to find an NGO which had applied for such a project, but usually I would know about the places which were given for Ukraine, not for Georgia. So
sorry, you're working in NGO for now, right?
I work both in an NGO and the university, but we don't have projects where we cooperate with someone who would offer places for Georgia.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean,
there's the third thing which I would also recommend you to look at is European Solidarity Corp. I don't know if you know about them.
Yes. Yeah, I have already did it. So
those are all options which I know. The last thing which I would offer you to look at specific scholarships in Ukraine or Poland, but I would recommend mostly Poland. For example, UNESCO Research Scholarship. It is open for graduates of master courses, but it's only for example, if you are going to study PhD.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I knew, unfortunately.
Thank you. And let me have the answer about Tamar Manjowic's question, because she asked if she could have some projects that needed to have the grant or something. As I know, and I'm pretty sure that when I have been living in Poland during 6 months, I wanted to do some exchange also in Denmark. And when I have tried and when I have asked to one of the international NGOs and also one NGO in Warsaw, they have told me that it's really the most important to not to live in the country that you want to have the project or some exchange project or a grant. So if Tamar, you live in Poland, you can't have the grant from Erasmus.
Yeah, this is how I assume. Thank you for that, for this information. Thanks a lot.
But still, I think you need to check it, because it's possible there may be possible change to something for some countries or some reasons.
Yeah, maybe it's better to ask.
Yes. Okay.
You know, Nana, what I remembered also about such a scholarship for Eastern Partnership countries, where they allow to come to European Commission or any other related agencies which work for European Union. For example, European Union Visitors Program or something like that. You can come to the website of European Commission, European Parliament, and there is some third one.
And blue internship, it's said blue. They named the blue internship, I think.
Yeah, so they pay for your staying there. They even can pay you money for staying and working there, but you will still have incredible experiences. I have several colleagues who had done it, and it's amazing. Either as a part of ESEA or Parliament or some agency of Commission.
Thank you so much. So maybe one day, if I will try to have Erasmus Mundus project, I will come in Poland again. So thank you.
Can I ask Oksana one question? So you have already mentioned about UNESCO research grants, am I correct? Or I noted it
yeah, correct.
Is it correct? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I got in 2013. It was given through the Polish committee. So the call was again announced. It's not an open call. It was announced namely via the university. And that time it was SGGU, Szkoła Główna in Warsaw. And it was 2 months of research based on that university. But I was interviewed by the representatives of the Polish committee.
And can I ask you one question? So do they like give research grants like to people of every, or to representatives of every profession, or is the profession or the study or field should be connected somehow to, I don't know, history or related fields?
In fact, you know that usually I don't even remember the names of these types of scholarships and so on, because there are hundreds of them. And UNESCO, it's only one, and it's a short term. There are different, like for getting a professional experience, if you are an NGO leader. I know that it's a strong direction with America. At least for Ukraine, that's for sure. But I know that usually they put us in the same group. Like until recent years, when the Trump came, there was a project for those young people who work in the field of agriculture, and you want to come to America and see anything related to agriculture, you could go according to faculty exchange program. There is SUSI program for students. UGrad is something for students again to come for the semester. So it's like, you know, there are hundreds of them. I wouldn't recommend you just to focus on something like, okay, this UNESCO scholarship provides money only for engineers, and I am a medical student, so I can't get money. I just recently found some small scholarships for getting to the archives in Brussels, for example, or Paris-based Eiffel Tower scholarship for doing some research, and it was related to arts, democracy, blah, blah, blah. So it's like hundreds of them, you just don't Google them, you know. So just Google and you will find like anything related to any field.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. More questions? Someone have a more question?
So I have a question. Can I
start? Please.
So first of all, thanks a lot. It was really interesting. Stanislaw and Oksana, really thanks for this. So my question is related to projects and grants, because I several years ago, I organized seasonal school project in Tbilisi, and university funded me. And my future goal is to organize more multicultural and Anglo-American seasonal school in rural side of Georgia, exactly in mountains. And main idea of my seasonal schools are to study them, how to serve visitors and tourists also, and teach them English very well. So, and what can I do for this? Where can I fill the form, or where can I write the project? Thank you.
Stanislaw, I guess it's to you.
You know, that's a very interesting idea, but in order to meaningfully apply for funding with feasible chances for success, I strongly recommend that you will rethink the idea, because professional language courses are offered on the market on the competitive market rates. Therefore, it's very difficult to convince donor to give you money for something which sells on the market. Don't get me wrong. It is possible, but very, very difficult. In my humble opinion, it's good to rethink, to discuss what could be an add value of what you are planning to do vis-a-vis commercially based courses. For example, if the part of the course could be, for example, introduction to Georgian culture and language, songs, melodies, various aspects of the intercultural dialogue and communication. Then you increase the portfolio of the funds which you can apply, and you can get support. I don't know if I made myself clear here.
Yes, it's clear. I have the plan, and I have already written, but it is old. I think that 2 years
later, yes. 2 years ago, I wrote it, and what you mentioned, I did it everything. So that's why I want to spread it in whole Georgian. I mentioned in rural areas, for example, in Svaneti as well, or in Raja as well, and these kind of areas I want to organize. That's why I mentioned multicultural and Anglo-American, because today Georgia is really, really beautiful, you know that. And that's why I want to do this. So thanks a lot. It was really clear for me. And as you told us, we have some website where we can find it, yes? And where we can feel it.
Yes, please send to Diana your information, and I will try to respond in more systematic way, okay?
Okay, okay. Thanks.
Okay, all the best.
Good
Thank you.
evening.
Hello, Maya, please.
Thank you for your supporting, first of all, about your funds. Let me introduce myself. I'm Maya Dumbaze. I have 10 years working experience in hospitality business from 2010 till 2021. I worked at Sheraton Batumi Hotel, where I had the opportunity to get knowledge of the service culture and do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. And sales techniques in two companies, first in Starwood after Marriott joined, and interacting with guests of different nationalities has become my pleasant experience for my life. And the basis of this, I decided to continue my activities independently and make a small contribution to the development of rural tourism, if it's interesting, and I hope it's interesting for you. So I have a plot of land myself in the village. It's very nice village. It has location just 18 kilometers from the city Batumi, with beautiful nature, with the river, with waterfalls. A lot of guests are visiting at the moment, and it has ecologically clean environment, natural waters, green and very nice, colorful autumn with various natural fruits and a lot of things. It's really makes impression of paradise. So I decided to place from the beginning to cottages and small restaurants in existing area. And it will be adapted for disabled people as well. So I want to use also local resources, organic products. Guests will be served with organic products, as is honey, fish, chicken, dairy products, vegetables, fruits. It's produced at the moment even by my youngest brother living nearby the place. I have business plan. I don't want to talk a lot about this plan now, but I will share it. I will present later with you when you will be Batumi. I hope I will meet you and explain everything better. And at the moment, I heard even about Polish fund, and I think I will attend for it. And I'm interested. What do you think about this plan?
Sure. When we will meet in Batumi, we can discuss details, because you know, then I can understand better your idea and your needs.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Thank you, Maya.
Thank you.
And now, who have question? Monica, maybe you?
No, I have no question if you ask me.
Okay.
Okay.
We would like to say thank you for this opportunity, I guess. Thank you, Oksana. Thank you, Stanislaw. It was really, really very helpful. For me, it was. I don't know what about others, but thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience for us.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, and looking forward for the next meetings and cooperation. All the best.
Thank you very much, Stanislaw.
Thank you for this interesting evening.
Thank you very much, Oksana, for your time, for your presentation, and for information. Thank you all our participants. So I will remind you that next meeting we have on 24. So tomorrow we have free day, 24. So also we have the plan to do one conference, like final conference meeting, online conference on 29 November, in next Monday. So everyone will be presenting who want, because someone don't want, someone don't is shy or something like this. But I think it will be like more 10 person will be presenting themselves about themselves also. We want to invite during this final presentation our colleague from Ukraine. Also, she will be presenting also, and you will be get each other know better. So we will have the good opportunity to cooperation. And what I want to say, yes, also I will be pleasure to know that I send you some questionnaires. You on the mail you will see there the questionnaires, and I will be happy if you will fulfill these questionnaires, because we want to know about you more information. So you will be find these questionnaires on your mail. And today we are finished. So if you will have any more questions for Oksana or Stanislaw, you can, I think they can write you, yes, directly. Yes.
Or
okay.
or to you. Don't hesitate. Yes, and
Yes.
Diana will send me information and question, and I will be happy to help you.
Thank you very much. I will stop our recording now. So, and bye everyone today. We will meet very soon.
Bye.